Welcome back to another episode of Wicked Darkness. I'm Kathy with tonight I have Debbie.
Hello.
I have Kevin.
Hello, hello.
And I have Renee.
Hi there.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. So we're going to be talking about Cecil Hotel. And Renee, we were just talking, you're from LA originally.
Yep.
The Cecil Hotel is in LA.
Yes.
The Cecil Hotel opened its doors because we were talking about that 1920s. It actually opened December 20th, 1924 as a luxury hotel. But Great Depression did a lot of things to the economics of the time, and even unfortunately the buildings of the time had to be changed from luxury to we just need to have people in so we can keep the lights on type situation.
Yeah.
So why don't you were just telling us a little bit before we went on about the Cecil, because you have been there yourself.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit what the Cecil is like.
It's not as tall as the buildings around downtown LA. Where it's located is in between 7th and 6th Streets, and it is on Main Street, and then behind it is like San Julian and Wall. And it's not near all the like tall buildings that you see in LA when you see the pictures. It's kind of in the older part of downtown LA. And you can tell it's a very historic structure when you look at it. It has the fire escapes on the outside, and I think it's like, is it 10 to 12 stories tall? I think if I'm remembering correctly.
It's only 14 stories.
14 stories.
14
Okay.
stories, technically 13, but hotels never have a 13th floor.
Yeah.
I consider bad luck.
Got it. Yeah, so it's by the time I was born and got around to like traveling in that area, the Cecil Hotel had seen better days. And so had the area around the Cecil Hotel. A lot of homeless, a big homeless population around that area. It's in what's considered Skid Row, in downtown LA. And so a lot of people use it for, day at that time in the 80s and 90s, 2000s, they were using it as just, somewhere to stay. And it wasn't really kept up a whole lot. And so a lot of drugs, a lot of, murders, and just, it was not seen as the place where tourists would go, and
At least not knowing what it looked like and what its history was at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was always one of those places where you didn't go. Or if you wanted to go and have fun, then you would go, so that was the kind of place it was. But inside it still had that look of marble floors, the marble columns inside, and you could tell there was a lot of history that it had seen better days inside and outside.
So
It's
looking
up
at
for
the
sale.
building though, it two separate buildings? Like it looks like it's disconnected, from the outside. You know what I'm saying? It looks like there's like the one side of the building and then there's like a space and another side. Is that just the floors themselves? But inside, like the lobby area is one whole thing? Is that correct?
Yeah. And I remember the elevators being very rickety. It just was kind of like, are we gonna make it down or not? And so yeah, it reminds me of the like old apartment buildings in like New York, kind of that style.
Okay.
So yeah.
So we talked about it being old, and that the prices were cheap. We're talking like dollars, like literally dollars to stay there. And then they had Skid Row that's quite large actually in LA, right? That's That's not just like right in front of the block there. It's several blocks, right? If not longer.
Yeah, so I think Skid Row goes, I'm looking at a map right now, and I believe it starts, I know it's in between like 5th, 6th, and 7th streets. The LA Mission is actually on 5th Street. And then you have Wall Street, San Pedro, Crocker, Town, and then up to Main Street, I think is where it ends. And that's where the Cecil, I think, is on Main Street.
Okay,
I'm
so
looking at
how
my map.
far away is the Cecil from downtown, like the downtown LA that we all envision nowadays? Is it like a couple miles away, or is it something that, is within walking distance?
I mean, you could walk it. It's probably, so from like Crypto Arena and the Convention Center and the Grammy Museum and all that other stuff, it's probably like maybe half a mile. I'm really bad at like distances, so don't ask me.
Yeah, it looks like it's about a mile
It's
and a half or
it's
so.
it's an
Okay.
inch on the map.
Right. Right.
Fair enough. I mean,
Is it about a mile, Kevin?
It's about a mile and a half. And
Yeah.
what I was mentioning earlier is it appears that the Cecil is up for sale again. So
oh,
maybe we could pull our money together, you know.
right.
No thanks. It needs a lot of
I don't know about
repairs.
that,
Yeah.
It has
I
quite the history.
I applaud the people that try to make it a thing, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think I want to put my money into that thing. Looking at it, it cost about 1.5 million to complete it. And it had, I don't know if it still does, but it had stained glass windows, potted palms. I mean, this thing did sound very luxurious. I mean,
Yeah.
they really tried. But then the Depression years happened and it kind of went downhill and they, couldn't recover from that. And like you said, it turned into like the area that Skid Row is now. And I'm looking at it and it says 10,000 homeless people live within a 4-mile radius. That's
It's a lot.
large.
Yeah.
Wow, that's sad, but large.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, a portion of the hotel was refurbished, when the new owners took over, and they tried to call in 2011, they tried to rebrand it to the Stay on Main. So they had two areas. They had the Cecil entrance, and then they had the Stay on Main. So to make it look like less of a, I don't know, run-down hotel, I guess. They did like all these renovations, and then they got 2 different lobbies and everything. So the Stay on Main is the one that they will put out there for people that are traveling from wherever out of the country, in the country, to go to whatever, reasonable pricing and stuff. But you still have to share with the Cecil Hotel when it comes to like the elevators and stuff like that. So the Cecil's got people that are trying to get off the streets. So it's not the best of things. And like you were saying, what was the combination of the smell there at the Cecil?
It was tobacco. So tobacco, alcohol, and urine. Yeah.
That's a lovely smell.
Great smell.
So just imagine you're coming from like, say, Europe. You're like, oh, I got a great price on this hotel room. And then you get in the elevator and you're like, why does it smell like I've just walked out from the street in front of the Skid Row area?
So I say it'll prepare you for Skid Row.
Right.
Yeah.
So poor Cecil Hotel. I mean, it really did have like a bad start. I shouldn't say a bad start. It had a bad run. Like in 1962, there was a jumper from the 9th floor. And there was some killings. I take that back. So it was Pauline Ottoton. She jumped off the 9th floor, and landed on this poor guy, George. She landed right on top of him.
Oh no.
As he was walking underneath. So you killed yourself and then you took somebody with you. And then there's like an unsolved murder of the pigeon woman. She was found robbed, strangled, raped, stabbed inside the seventh floor room, which was the same floor it looks like that maybe Richard Ramirez stayed at.
Hmm.
And we'll talk about Richard Ramirez the next episode, but they've had some stuff happen. The most recent, did you guys watch the documentary on the Cecil Hotel on Netflix?
Yes.
Of the Canadian girl who
Yeah,
was
she was found in the water tower on top of the building.
Yes. So
This is
she
very
was
bizarre.
21 years old. Elisa, I don't know what her last name is offhand. Alicia, she was traveling from Canada. She wanted to travel on her own, decided she was going to go to LA, saw the rates, thought the hotel looked great, that it was in her price range and everything. And she ended up being like this huge blogger on the internet, telling about everything that she felt and did and everything else, which was kind of nice for the investigators. They were able to, piece together certain things. But that's where the Cecil really became notable to everybody else. I'm sure it was somewhat notable for you guys in LA, but the rest of the country, we didn't have a clue really about the Cecil.
Right.
Did you guys, when all this was happening in LA, did you guys know that the Cecil was involved in a lot of things?
As far as
like Richard Ramirez and, I don't know, when did you leave LA?
Oh, not till 2012. No, well, so I didn't officially move there probably till 2015.
Okay.
When I moved to Wyoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you still around LA when Alicia was missing?
Yeah, we had heard about it, but LA being LA, it wasn't like a big story. Unfortunately, considering everything else that goes on out there. It was just another one of those, oh, they found somebody, Cecil Hotel, that sort of thing. It was just kind of probably a 2-3 minute blurb on the news. Nothing.
Well,
nothing
I'm sure
crazy.
LA is kind of like Chicago because we live near Chicago, and Chicago, they have killings and death daily, if
Right.
not every hour or so at this point in time. So I'm sure it's something similar to that in LA as it is in Chicago and even in New York. Not to
Right.
say that anybody that's listening from outside our country, we are not all, you can't just come to the United States and just, get killed or anything. That's not what the United States is about.
No.
We have a lot of places you can come visit. It just so happened that unfortunately she ended up getting killed while she was here.
Right.
But she was not in a very safe environment, I guess you could say.
Right.
Do you know when you were at the Cecil, there's more men there than there are women, right?
Oh yeah.
Stay there?
Yeah. It's a lot of you get a lot of like workers that work construction or people that work nearby that are maybe using that as home base, maybe trying to get back on their feet. Also because the rates I think back then were maybe like, dollars, $10, $15 a night, which I don't know, in the late 90s that wasn't too bad,
Right.
But yeah, a lot of men in that area, and just again, not taking, this is just a very small portion of Los Angeles, right? So it's not the entire city. And so, looking at the area, if you don't know the area and it's not something that you do heavy research on, you're going to be very, very disappointed when you go and you find that there's, you have all, homeless, you have it's in probably not the best area.
Mm-hmm.
It's near the fashion district. It's near the toy district. And so there's a lot of a lot of stores. You have a lot of trucks, a lot of noise. It's near Olympic Boulevard, which has a lot of warehouses. You're near the bus depot, the Greyhound depot. So there's a lot of transportation coming in and out. And so it's a very, very busy area, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not familiar, and that's probably what happened with Lisa, right?
Mm-hmm.
With her coming in, here you have the Cecil branded as this low-cost hotel. Here are the pictures on the internet. And you get there and you're like, this isn't what exactly I signed up for, you know?
Right. Especially being 21 in LA. I mean, a lot of people go to LA to think that they're going to become the next movie star, you know,
Right.
the A-lister or whatever. And a lot of them find out that it's not that way, you know. It's
Right.
just like any other city it's the luck of the draw if you actually can pull it off. But
Right.
I think she was just going there just to start her travels and stuff. But that's where, you know, she was found, like you were saying, Kevin, she was found up in the water tower. But do you guys remember how she was found? Like how they actually discovered her?
I do not remember.
So why I was saying European people were, you know, travel there, they actually during the documentary, they had two a female and a male. I don't know if they were a couple or if they were, you know, brother, sister. I don't remember, but they were there from Europe, and they were saying not just them, but a lot of people, the tenants or the guests there were saying that the water was like a different color, it was like a brown, and it started tasting funny. And then it got to the point where they couldn't take it anymore. And so they went up and they checked the water because it just wasn't coming out. The pressure was low and everything. So they went and checked the water tanks, and there's 4 of them up on the roof. And the guy opened up the hatch on top, and here's her body just like floating up on the top of the water itself. But she had been there for days. But then what started the whole thing was like, besides her going missing, is there was a video of her on the rickety elevators you were talking about. And she was acting weird. She was like, it looked like she was talking to somebody, but there wasn't anybody. And then people started getting on the internet, and they're kind of like looking at the video, and they're like trying to say that there was like a glitch, that they took a part of the clip of that portion of her video, and like it went missing. There was like a minute missing, and then somebody saw like possibly a foot in the corner on the hallway side of the video. And then they were saying that she was just acting like weird, and it was like a haunting video, and she's sitting there pushing all the buttons. And they were able to determine what floor she was on and all that stuff, and just creepy. But then, you know, going and listening to that and knowing that the Cecil, you know, has been on other shows. Ghost Adventures have had them on, Ghost Hunters have had them on, as places that they've gone to. And saying that, you know, with all the deaths that have happened throughout the years, that the Cecil is haunted. Do you know any of those stories, or did you hear any of those stories when you lived there of it being haunted?
We did hear that it was haunted. It was, when we were in there, was very creepy. You know, it was dark, and just, again, the smell. And just the rooms itself. What's interesting is the rooms don't have restrooms. There's like a communal restroom in the hallways. And I don't know if that's like every single room, but there is a sink in the room. And then you have a very small window in the room. And again, I don't know if all the rooms are like that, but the room that I was able to see, or we were able to hang out in, had just one small window, and it looked out. So you know how you said that it would look like it was 3 separate buildings?
Yeah.
It looked, so I think there's like a main hallway or main building that connects it, and then they like jut out for the three separate areas.
Okay.
So the windows face in to those areas. So you don't see out, you see in.
Oh.
So you'll see another window across from you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you don't have a view.
No.
You have a view of the guest across the way from you, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I
could that any better.
No. But I could definitely see, now knowing what I know as far as like being involved with paranormal, I'm like, oh, that would be cool to get back there and maybe do an investigation, you know?
Right.
And but yeah, then it was creepy feel, you know, just like I said, the elevator itself was just eerie, and just the hallways, and yeah.
So Kevin, you were saying that they're gonna, because after this whole event happened with Alicia, it kind of killed the, no pun intended, I'm sorry, killed the vibe of the place. So nobody really wanted to stay there. And their way of trying to revamp it and bring the stay on Main type thing, all that kind of went away due to what had happened. So they kind of shut down. But now you're saying they were going to redo it where it was supposed to be like a luxury, like not hotel. I think it was apartments or something like that. That there was some buyer that came in and wanted to have like a pool up on the rooftop and a bar up there, which great. I mean, the girl passed away up in your tanks there, but let's have a pool anyway and a bar. But now you're saying that it's up for sale again, so they really haven't done anything to the hotel then.
Yeah, it looks like in March it got listed for sale again. March of this year.
Well,
yeah.
Good luck. I mean, it's hard to have anything around there, especially, I mean, no offense to the Skid Row people, they do try, but it's hard to get out of that situation when you're in it. And some of them have been in it basically since, the very beginning. And they have their own little community kind of thing going on there now. So, I mean, if they can make something out of it, great. If not, I guess maybe open it up to the people in Skid Row and don't even charge them. Just give them a room. Yeah. And see, get them off the street, have them have some kind of dignity to their lives. It's the only other thing I would think that they could do for the building besides tearing it down at this point, though. But at least there they would have some place over their head. I mean, not that LA ever has snowstorms and everything else and bitter cold nights like we do here in Wisconsin, but
torrential rain.
Right. Earthquakes, all that stuff, but it's able to, survive all that. It's been around since the 20s. So, it's almost 100 years old and it's still standing. So who knows? But we're with Cecil Hotel, with that came, another famous, incident, I guess you could say, in LA's long history with Richard Ramirez. And I think we'll talk about Richard Ramirez in the next episode. But we kind of wanted to tie the Cecil Hotel in with Richard, just because he did stay at the Cecil during the times that he had done his deeds. So I think right now we'll say goodbye for this episode, and we'll pick it up again with Richard in the next episode. So I guess you guys have to stay tuned to hear the Richard Ramirez, or as most people know him as the Night Stalker. So for our skeptics, keep us grounded. For our believers, keep believing. I'm Kathy. And have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.